Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a story that was basically scrubbed from the history books, a story about a friendship that truly defied an empire.
Okay, so let's jump right in. And to do that, we actually have to start at the end. It's January 1901, and Queen Victoria, one of the most powerful rulers in the world, has just died.
So immediately after her death, her son, the new king Edward VII, sends out royal guards. But here's the twist. They don't go to a palace. They don't go to a government building. They raid the home of a man named Abdul Karim.
And right there, in front of him, they take every single piece of paper that passed between him and the queen, every letter, every personal note, and they throw it all onto a bonfire, forcing him to watch it all turn to ash.
So you have to ask yourself, right? Why? What on earth was in those letters? Why was this friendship so dangerous that the brand new king's first order of business was to literally burn the evidence?
Well, to get to the bottom of this, we've got to rewind the clock about 14 years. We're going to meet two people from two completely different universes whose lives are about to collide in a way no one saw coming. I mean, just look at the contrast here. It's night and day. You've got Queen Victoria, born and raised in a palace, on the throne at 18, ruling over a quarter of the globe. And then you have Abdul Karim, born in India, a colonial subject, who at 21 was working as a clerk in a jail. You couldn't imagine two more different lives.
So how did these two even meet?
Well, it all comes down to a massive party. It's 1887, the 50th anniversary of Victoria's rule. Kings and princes from India were invited, and the Queen thought it would be a nice touch to have a couple of Indian servants there to wait on everyone.
So the job of finding these men goes to the superintendent of the Agra jail. And get this, the Queen's instructions were pretty specific. They didn't just want anyone. The men had to be good-looking and have a good dress sense. And so, Abdul Karim was picked. The plan was simple. Go to London for a few months, serve the Queen, and then head right back home. But that temporary gig, it turned into one of the most important, and for many people, one of the most infuriating relationships of the Queen's entire life.
I mean, just look at how fast this all happened. His rise was absolutely meteoric. He shows up in 1887 as a servant, but after he meets the Queen, a real friendship starts to form. And by the end of that same year, the Queen, who is fascinated by India, asks him to teach her Urdu.
He became her munshi, which means teacher, and for the next 13 years, that's exactly what he was. And she wasn't some casual student either. She was totally dedicated, practicing her Urdu lessons every single night, no matter what. But this was about way more than just learning a language. He became her personal window into India. He taught her how to cook real chicken curry and palau. He told her stories about life back home, about festivals, and he gave her perspective on Indian politics that she was never, ever going to get from her official advisors. Think about it. She's the Empress of India, but she could never actually go there. So for her, Abdul became this incredible personal connection to the millions of people she ruled over. He really did become her closest friend and confidant. Well, as you can probably guess, not everyone was thrilled about this. As their friendship got deeper, the Queen's own court and even her own children became incredibly angry and suspicious of this man. The royal household was just horrified. And let's be honest about why. It was a nasty combination of racism and class snobbery. But they were also genuinely afraid. They were terrified of the political influence this Indian man could have on the Queen, worried he might change her views on how the empire should be run. And their campaign to get rid of him just got worse and worse, from whispers and rumors to outright rebellion. It all finally came to a head. The entire royal household basically gave her an ultimatum. If she took Abdul with her on a trip to Europe, they would all quit. All of them.
And Victoria? Oh, she was not having it. She absolutely lost it. She was so furious at their prejudice and their nerve that she literally swept everything off her desk in a fit of rage. She called their bluff, refused to back down, and in the end, nobody quit. And she took her mungie with her.
But that fierce protection only lasted as long as she was alive. The moment she died in January 1901, Abdul was completely exposed to all the enemies he had made over the years. The new king, Edward, did do one small, decent thing. He allowed Abdul to be the very last person to see the Queen's face before her coffin was sealed forever. But that little act of grace was immediately followed by a cold, swift act of revenge. And this brings us right back to where we started, the Great Erasure. The new king had him completely wiped from the royal record.
For the court, their friendship was an embarrassment, a stain that just had to be removed. Abdul was put on the very next ship back to India, and just like that, his incredible life at the center of the British Empire was over.
After being sent back to India, his life was tragically short. This number, 8, that's how many years he lived after the Queen died.
And this was his age when he passed away, only 46. He died back in Agra, living out his final years in total obscurity, that whole other life he'd lived now just a distant, forbidden memory.
You know, the attempt to erase the Munshi from history was almost successful. If it wasn't for the fact that his private journals survived, we would probably never know any of this. Their story, this incredible friendship that crossed every divide you can imagine, race, class, empire, was nearly lost forever. And it really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? How many other stories like this have been intentionally buried, just waiting for someone to uncover the truth?